When the doctor told me I had only 6 months left to live, I didn't scream, argue, or beg for more time. I just sat there silently, staring at the wall behind him, wondering how a single sentence could destroy everything I believed I still had time for. My hands went cold. My heart felt like it forgot how to beat. The world outside the office kept moving, nurses walking, papers shuffling, machines beeping. But inside my body, everything stopped. And then, after what felt like an eternity, one thought whispered through me like a quiet rebellion. If my time is limited, then I will spend every second finally living. Before the story begins, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so more people can hear stories like this one. Thank you for being here. When I walked out of that doctor's office, the world looked the same, but I didn't. The sun was shining, but I didn't feel its warmth. People were laughing, but it sounded distant, like echoes from a life I wasn't part of anymore. I stood in the parking lot staring at nothing, trying to breathe in a world that suddenly felt too big for me. I sat inside my car and let my forehead fall against the steering wheel. Tears came quietly, not as a scream, but as a slow surrender. I wasn't crying because I feared death. I was crying because I realized how little I had truly lived. For years, I followed routines. I worked the same job, cooked the same meals, wore the same outfits, folded the same laundry, went to the same grocery store, lived the same week on repeat, and called it a life. I waited for someday. Someday I'd travel. Someday I'd go to the beach again. Someday I'd try dancing again. Someday I'd fix broken relationships. Someday I'd stop living for responsibility and start living for meaning. But someday never came, because someday was something I thought I had unlimited time to reach. Now, time had drawn a line. 6 months, 180 days, and for the first time in my life, time wasn't something I casually wasted. It was something I could feel slipping away. When I finally drove home, it felt like I was entering another person's life. My furniture, my dishes, my framed pictures, all the things I thought mattered suddenly felt meaningless. I walked into my bedroom, took off my shoes, sat on the edge of my bed and whispered, "What now?" That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying moments of my past and regretting the ones I never created. Around 3 a.m., something inside me shifted. I stood up, went to the kitchen drawer, and pulled out an old, unused notebook. It still had the price sticker on it. I took a pen, sat down at my dining table, and opened the first page. My hand shook as I wrote 3 words at the top, words that changed everything. Before I die. I stared at the empty space beneath it. At first, nothing came. My mind felt blank, not because I lacked dreams, but because I had buried them so deep behind fear, routine, and excuses. Then slowly, like embers reigniting, ideas surfaced. The first thing I wrote was, fix what I broke. Then, say what I should have said. Then, forgive and let go. Then, one that made my throat tighten. Tell my children I love them in a way they will remember forever. After that, the pen moved faster. More items appeared. None of them were extravagant. None were unrealistic. They were human, emotional, honest. When I finished, I stared at my list and realized something powerful. My list wasn't about dying. It was about finally learning how to live. And the first thing on that list was my daughter, Emily. Our relationship had been broken for years. One argument, 6 angry minutes had turned into silence lasting more than 5 years. I told myself she should apologize first. She probably thought the same. And somewhere in the middle of that stubborn silence, love was lost. But now, pride seemed ridiculous in front of a ticking countdown. I picked up my phone and stared at her contact name. My thumb hovered over the call button as my heart pounded in my chest. Finally, I pressed it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then she answered. Her voice was cautious, distant, unfamiliar. "Hello?" I swallowed tightly and said, "Hi, it's Mom." Silence. Deep, heavy. Then a shaky whisper. "Mom?" The way she said that word shattered every wall I built. I started crying, she started crying, and in that moment, 5 years of distance crumbled. She said softly, "I never stopped waiting for your call." And I whispered, "Neither did I." That was the first item I marked off my list, and I wasn't finished yet. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. Not physically, but emotionally. The conversation with Emily replayed in my mind like a memory I wished I could relive again and again. It reminded me that even the deepest wounds can heal when love finally speaks louder than pride. But there was another relationship waiting on my list. My son, James. Unlike Emily and I, we didn't fight. We drifted, slowly, quietly, softly. The kind of distance that doesn't arrive with shouting, but with silence. Years of, "I'll call later," "I'm busy," and "maybe next week" turned into months, and eventually into years. I didn't want my life to end with him thinking I didn't care. So I got in my car and drove to his house without warning. When he opened the door, he looked surprised, then confused, then concerned. "Mom, what's going on?" His voice carried a familiar warmth I forgot I missed. I took a breath and simply said, "Can we talk?" He stepped aside and gestured me in. We sat across from each other at his kitchen table. Sunlight poured through the window, illuminating dust in the air. Tiny particles floating everywhere, reminding me how fragile and temporary everything was. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I reached across the table and took his hand. His eyes softened, and finally, I said the words I owed him for years. "I am proud of you." His reaction was immediate. His eyes glossed with tears he tried to blink away. He forced a laugh, shook his head, and whispered, "You never said that before." My voice broke. "I know, but I should have." He squeezed my hand gently. "I always hoped you were." I was, every single day. We sat there, not speaking, just holding hands like two souls finally remembering they belonged in each other's lives. But I still couldn't tell him the truth. Not yet. I wasn't ready to put the weight of my countdown onto his heart. Before I left, he hugged me tightly, longer than usual. I breathed him in, trying to memorize the way his presence felt. And for the second time in 2 days, I checked another item off my list. When I got home, I sat with my notebook again. My eyes drifted to the next line. See the ocean again. It was one of those dreams I always postponed. Life got busy, priorities shifted, and the ocean became a memory instead of a destination. But now the ocean wasn't a luxury. It was a promise I owed myself. So I packed the small bag, got in my car, and drove, hours away, to the coast. The closer I got, the more I could smell the salt in the air. My heart began racing, not from fear, but from anticipation. When I stepped out of the car, a cold breeze hit my skin and filled my lungs. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me. Then I walked toward the water. The sand felt soft beneath my shoes, so I took them off and let my bare feet sink into the earth like roots reconnecting to the world. When the first wave touched my toes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pure, unfiltered joy. I laughed, out loud. Not because something was funny, but because in that moment, I felt alive. I let the water soak my feet. I let the wind tangle my hair. I let the sound of crashing waves become the rhythm of my spirit. And then I cried. But this time the tears weren't from fear. They were from gratitude. I sat on the sand for hours, watching waves rise and collapse like breaths the earth never apologized for taking. And in that moment, I realized something. Life isn't measured by time. It's measured by moments that take your breath away. As the sun began to set, the sky turned shades of gold, pink, and deep orange. It didn't feel like a sunset. It felt like a masterpiece painted just for me. I whispered to the ocean, "Thank you." And the waves answered with soft, endless applause. That night, I slept in a small beachfront motel. No luxury, no noise, just the sound of the waves outside my window. And for the first time since the diagnosis, I slept peacefully. The next morning, I woke up with a strange new feeling: courage. It was time to face the next item on my list, one I never imagined writing: forgive myself. I had spent years blaming myself for mistakes, for missed chances, for not being the perfect mother, wife, friend, or human. But now, with time shrinking behind me, I realized something important. I never needed perfection. I needed peace. So I whispered into the morning air, "I forgive you." And my soul finally exhaled. Another line completed. Another weight lifted. And I still wasn't finished. My list wasn't just a goodbye. It was becoming my rebirth. The next item on my list was simple in words, but impossible in feeling. Laugh until my stomach hurts. I hadn't truly laughed in years. Not the kind that shakes your body, makes your eyes water, and makes your chest ache in the best way. Life had been full of responsibilities, stress, and endless worry. But now, with the countdown hovering over me like a silent clock, I knew I had to reclaim joy. I started small. I put on music I loved as a teenager and danced in my living room. I danced clumsily, stepping on my own feet, laughing at the ridiculousness of it all. And slowly, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: freedom. I remembered that laughter wasn't just a reaction, it was a rebellion. A rebellion against fear, sorrow, and the thought that life could be taken too soon. I called my oldest friend, someone I hadn't seen in years, and we met at a small cafe. At first, our conversation was cautious, formal even. But then something broke. A memory, a joke, a shared mishap from decades ago. And suddenly we were laughing like teenagers again. My chest ached with happiness. Tears ran down my cheeks, not from sadness, but from the deep, profound beauty of reconnecting. Another item on the list ticked. Then came something harder. Eat dessert first, just once. It seemed silly to others, but I realized I had spent my life prioritizing work, diet, and what society deemed responsible over what my heart craved. That night, I ordered the richest chocolate cake I could find and ate it slowly, savoring every bite. The sweetness wasn't just sugar. It was a reminder that indulgence can be a form of self-love. I felt alive. My body wasn't the same as it used to be. Fatigue hit me faster than before, and the doctor's words haunted me at the edges of every activity. But with every small rebellion, I was living on my terms, not under the shadow of a looming expiration date. Another line completed. Another triumph claimed. The next item on my list was tell my children I love them in a way they'd never forget. I had said it in words before, yes, but never with this urgency, never with the awareness that this could be the last opportunity. I called James and Emily separately, asking them to come over. They arrived, worried, but smiling, not knowing that the room was about to carry the weight of my final lessons. I told them everything about the diagnosis, about the list, about every fear, every regret, every memory I wished I had shared sooner. Their faces crumpled with emotion, and I held each of them tightly. "I love you," I whispered into their ears, over and over, letting the words sink into their bones. I've always loved you, and I will carry you in my heart forever. The tears, the hugs, the trembling voices were worth every moment of fear, every hesitation, every time I had stayed silent before. We sat together for hours, simply being, talking about memories, joking, crying, laughing, forgiving past hurts. And in that space, I understood the meaning of time. It wasn't about how many days were left. It was about the depth of each moment we chose to live fully. With that done, I turned to the next item: say goodbye properly. The thought terrified me. How do you say goodbye without fear, without regret, without leaving pieces of your soul behind? I spent days preparing, writing letters, recording messages for those I couldn't reach in person. I wanted my voice, my love, my lessons to survive beyond the limitations of my body. And yet part of me wondered, how do you let go when your heart is still screaming to stay? I decided that saying goodbye wasn't about death. It was about clarity, about leaving behind something meaningful. I revisited old friends I had drifted from, apologized where apologies were due, forgave where forgiveness had been hard, and embraced the moments I had missed. Each conversation, each embrace, each laugh felt like reclaiming a fragment of life I had forgotten existed. And slowly, I realized something extraordinary. Living fully isn't about extraordinary events. It's about depth, presence, and honesty. That night, as I sat in my room alone, I reflected on my journey. I had feared dying, yes, but more than that, I had feared never living. The list hadn't saved me from illness, but it had saved me from a life half lived. And when I finally laid down to sleep, exhaustion wrapped around me like a blanket of triumph. I had faced fear, embraced love, reclaimed joy, and forgiven what I could not change. The next day, I woke with one final piece of the list in mind: make peace with the worlds I leave behind. I visited neighbors I had neglected, wrote letters to people who had shaped my life, and even donated items to charity. Little things that felt monumental in their intention. I wanted to leave behind more than memories. I wanted to leave behind warmth, hope, and love. And in doing so, I found a strange new peace. Death wasn't something to fear. It was simply the next step in a journey I had finally learned how to live. By the time I finished, nearly everything on my list was complete. My body ached in new ways, joyful exhaustion, but my spirit was lighter than it had been in decades. I realized that fear and regret had no power over me anymore. I had chosen living over waiting, loving over pride, joy over routine, and even though my days were numbered, I felt infinite. The last item on my list was the hardest of all: face the end and say goodbye properly. I had spent weeks preparing mentally, physically, and emotionally, but nothing could truly ready me for that moment. The sun rose that morning like it had every other day, but I could feel a subtle heaviness in the air, a quiet knowledge that my body was nearing its limit. I called my children, Emily and James, and asked them to come over one final time. When they arrived, their faces were etched with concern, confusion, and fear. I welcomed them with the warmest smiles I could muster, hiding the trembling that still lived in my hands. We sat together in the living room, the same room where countless memories had been made, the same room where laughter had once felt effortless, the same room where tears had been shed over losses both small and large. I looked at them and said, "I want to tell you something important." Their eyes filled immediately with anxiety, the kind that makes you want to hug someone forever and never let go. I told them about the diagnosis, about the 6 months I was given, and about the list I had created to make those months meaningful. They gasped, then clutched my hands tighter. "Mom, we didn't know," Emily whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. James' voice shook as he added, "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" I smiled gently, because I had to find the courage to live first. I had to understand how to live fully before sharing it with you. I explained every item on the list, how each one taught me a lesson about life, love, forgiveness, and joy. They listened in silence at first, and then they laughed, they cried, they shared their own memories, and they hugged me as though holding on to me could somehow stop time itself. The hours passed like minutes, filled with stories of our past, shared jokes, and tears that weren't just sad, they were cleansing. I realized that this final chapter wasn't about fear. It wasn't about illness or time running out. It was about love, presence, and the legacy of our shared experiences. Afterward, we went outside. I asked my children to stand with me in the garden. The sun was warm on my skin, the air fragrant with flowers in bloom. I held their hands and said, "I want you to remember today. Every detail, every laugh, every tear, that is my final gift to you." They nodded, choking back their own sobs, and I felt a profound connection with them that I had never allowed myself to feel before. It wasn't just about saying goodbye, it was about leaving behind a piece of myself in their hearts. Later that evening, as the light faded and shadows stretched across the room, I felt my body growing weaker. But the exhaustion was different now, pleasant, serene. It was a kind that comes when you have lived fully, loved openly, and forgiven completely. I reflected on every step I had taken over the past months. The phone calls, the tears, the laughter, the trips, the forgiveness, all of it had been a preparation for this moment. And I realized that dying wasn't terrifying. What had terrified me for so long was the idea of leaving life unlived. Now, as I lay in bed, with Emily on one side and James on the other, holding their hands for the final time, I understood something eternal. Life is not measured by years, by wealth, or by accomplishments. Life is measured by moments, by connections, the depth of love we share, and the courage to embrace joy, even in the face of the inevitable. My eyelids grew heavy, but my mind was clear. I whispered to them softly, "I love you. I will always love you." And I meant it not as a fleeting sentiment, but as a truth embedded in the very fabric of my being. Hours passed in quiet reflection, punctuated by soft breathing, whispered memories, and the occasional laugh that felt like a spark of eternity. I thought about all the items on my list and realized that each one had led me here, to peace. The fear that once haunted me was gone, replaced with gratitude. Gratitude for love received, forgiveness given, moments seized, and laughter shared. Just before sleep took me completely, I reflected on what I wanted my story to leave behind. Not sadness, not pity, but inspiration. A message to anyone listening or watching: time is fleeting, life is fragile, but within that fragility lies the power to change, to love, to forgive, and to live fully, right now, in this moment. I thought of strangers, friends, family, people I had never met, all of whom might one day hear this story. And I wish for them to understand that life is not about waiting for the perfect time to begin. It's about beginning right now. In the quiet darkness, I whispered to myself one last time, "I am grateful. I have lived." And with that, I let go. Not in fear, not in sadness, but with the heart full of love and peace. My children were there to carry the memories, the lessons, and the love forward. And even as my body surrendered to time, my spirit lingered in every laugh we shared, every embrace we gave, and every moment we celebrated. That night, I discovered the most profound truth of all. The measure of life is not in its length, but in the depth, courage, and love with which it is lived. I had been given 6 months to live, but by choosing to live fully,
I had created a lifetime in that brief span. And perhaps that is the ultimate victory, not escaping death, but conquering life.